A legal appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next steps.
I am about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments. There won't be anything. It'll just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
Is this the beginning of the end for Dolton, Illinois' self-proclaimed super mayor, Tiffany Henyard? A political drama filled with scandals, accusations, and investigations is rapidly unfolding, threatening to dismantle an empire built on controversy and taxpayer dollars. Henyard, whose name is now synonymous with turmoil in local politics, finds herself at the center of escalating probes into financial misconduct, misuse of public funds, and abuse of power, all while presenting a carefully crafted image of success. Critics claim Henyard has prioritized personal ambition over public service, with revelations of extravagant spending on luxury trips, upscale hotels, and an eye-popping $40,000 Amazon shopping spree charged at township credit cards. These revelations have infuriated residents, many of whom struggle with a median income barely enough to cover basic living expenses. Meanwhile, Henyard's leadership style, often described as authoritarian and combative, has deepened divisions in the community. Her fiery speeches and social media rants against critics have alienated many, raising concerns about her professionalism. While her supporters view her defiance as a sign of strength and resilience, however, the cracks in her administration are becoming harder to ignore. Allegations of predatory behavior, manipulation of township resources, and attempts to silence dissent have painted a troubling picture of a leader losing control of her power. The fallout from these scandals has not only shaken public confidence, but also prompted legal action and an FBI investigation. Henyard now finds herself scrambling to defend her position as controversies continue to mount with every new revelation. The narrative of a bold, community-focused leader is being replaced by a portrait of a politician trapped in her own web of controversy. As Dolton grapples with financial instability and growing public distrust, Henyard's future in office hangs in the balance. The town's residents, alongside political adversaries, are increasingly calling for greater transparency and accountability, questioning how such behavior could have gone unchecked for so long for Dolton. The stakes have never been higher. Whether this marks the end of Henyard's reign or the beginning of a prolonged battle for survival, one thing is clear. The drama surrounding Tiffany Henyard has reached a critical juncture, and its consequences will reverberate far beyond the walls of Dolton's government.
Several new developments in South suburban Dolton today. First, the state comptroller has suspended some payments to the village because it has failed to follow the law by providing financial support.
Recent events in Dolton, Illinois, have cast an unflattering light on the growing dysfunction and controversy surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration, further destabilizing a community already struggling with both financial instability and political turmoil. The Illinois state comptroller recently delayed payments to the village due to its failure to submit mandatory financial reports, triggering a wave of frustration and alarm among residents. This delay has amplified concerns about Dolton's fiscal health, deepening the tensions between Henyard and her critics. In what many saw as an unorthodox and theatrical response, Henyard called for a special meeting that, rather than addressing the village's pressing financial issues, seemed more like a personal spectacle alone in a nearly empty room. Henyard delivered a fiery monologue aimed at an absent audience of trustees, declaring her unyielding determination to press forward despite mounting opposition. The absence of the trustees at this meeting was symbolic of the fractured state of Dolton's leadership and further highlighted the growing divide between Henyard and those who view her leadership as authoritarian and self-serving for her critics. This solo performance reinforced perception of a mayor increasingly isolated and out of touch with the needs of the community. Her administration has been mired in controversy, with mounting allegations of financial mismanagement and impropriety. The delayed state payments only deepened suspicions about the village's financial stability under her watch. Many residents and political adversaries argue that Henyard's failure to foster collaboration with the trustees has made the village's situation even worse, as important governance matters remain unresolved. With no clear path forward, on the other hand, Henyard supporters hailed her defiant stance as a bold refusal to back down in the face of adversity, framing her action as a fight for the people of Dolton and her vision for the community. To them, her solitary performance was a symbol of resilience against a hostile environment that they believed was engineered to undermine her. However, for the average resident who is weary of the ongoing political infighting, the spectacle did little to restore faith in the town's leadership. Many see Dolton's current state as a cautionary tale of what happens when governance breaks down, with the community left to bear the burden of stalled progress and financial instability. The delayed state payments, stemming directly from the village's failure to meet financial reporting requirements, have left many questioning Henyard's ability to manage Dolton's affairs effectively. As a result, calls for greater accountability and transparency have grown louder, with residents demanding answers about where their tax dollars are going and why the town's finances are in such disarray. This situation has only intensified the leadership crisis, with Dolton now at a crossroads. The future of the town is uncertain, hanging in the balance as Henyard's ability to navigate the storm is called into question. At the heart of this financial chaos is Henyard's controversial spending, which has become a flashpoint in the ongoing drama surrounding her administration. The township trustees recently took a bold and contentious step to curtail Henyard's spending by implementing a stringent new credit card policy. This move was a direct response to what they described as her use of township funds as a personal piggy bank. Fed up with what they saw as financial mismanagement, the trustees sought to enforce stricter accountability in the township's finances, hoping to rein in Henyard's excessive expenditures. However, Henyard was not about to let this challenge go unaddressed. In a fiery public defense, she accused the trustees of more than just trying to limit her spending. She claimed their actions were part of an underhanded attempt to sabotage her leadership and, more alarmingly, essential township services. In a dramatic and impassioned response, Henyard painted a picture of imminent chaos, warning that the new policies will bring township operations to a grinding halt. She argued that it wasn't simply an attack on her leadership, but an attack on the very fabric of Dolton itself. To drive home her point, Henyard made a vivid, almost absurd comparison. She claimed the township might not even be able to afford ice cream for a senior social event. Imagine that, Grandma's ice cream social canceled because of politics. This striking imagery of elderly residents eagerly awaiting a simple pleasure, only to be denied due to political maneuvering, became the centerpiece of Henyard's defiant narrative. Her supporters rallied behind her, echoing her frustration at what they saw as an unjust effort to undermine her leadership and dismiss her efforts to serve the community. However, Henyard's critics saw things very differently. To them, the trustees' move was not only justified but necessary. They pointed to years of accusations about Henyard's lavish spending habits, which included unnecessary travel, expensive dinners, and personal luxuries, as proof that her leadership style was self-serving and disconnected from the needs of the community. For her opponents, Henyard's claim about the canceled ice cream social was little more than a diversion tactic, an attempt to shift focus away from the real issue at hand, her financial mismanagement, and the strain it had placed on the township's resources. Residents of Dolton, caught in the crossfire of this growing feud, found themselves divided. Some continued to rally behind Henyard, viewing her as a leader under siege, unfairly targeted by political adversaries. These supporters argued that she was a fighter for the community, willing to take on the establishment to push for what she believed was best for Dolton Township. On the other hand, many residents began to question Henyard's priorities, increasingly seeing her as the architect of the township's financial troubles. The battle over the credit card policy became a new flashpoint in the ongoing saga of a deeply divided township, with Henyard's defiance and the trustees' resolve pushing Dolton further into turmoil. As the conflict rages on, the community is left wondering how it will move forward and whether Henyard's leadership can withstand the growing pressure of public scrutiny and opposition from within her own government. The stakes are high as both sides dig in their heels, with the future of Dolton Township hanging in the balance. Amid this chaos, a whistleblower has emerged, further adding fuel to the fire. Carmen Carlisle, once a close ally of Mayor Henyard, has recently come forward, exposing a series of serious allegations that paint a troubling picture of unethical behavior and exploitation under Henyard's leadership. Carlisle, along with her former assistant, has accused Henyard of systematically exploiting employees, vendors, and even residents in her efforts to build her personal power and maintain a facade of success. According to Carlisle, Henyard manipulated the inner workings of her administration, leveraging the hard work and trust of others to maintain a false image of effective leadership and progress, all while prioritizing her own lavish lifestyle at the expense of the very community she was elected to serve. Perhaps the most shocking of Carlisle's revelations is the claim that Henyard used taxpayer dollars to fund her opulent lifestyle, including luxury trips, stays at high-end hotels, and extravagant shopping sprees. One of the most glaring examples of this alleged misuse of public funds is a staggering $440,000 Amazon shopping spree, all charged to the township's credit cards. Carlisle argues that these excessive expenditures are emblematic of a broader culture of financial irresponsibility and abuse of power that has flourished under Henyard's leadership. The accusations have sent shockwaves through the community, which is already grappling with delayed state payments and fiscal instability. Residents are left questioning how such excesses could have occurred in a town where many are struggling to make ends meet. Carlisle's claims have reignited broader concerns about transparency, accountability, and the misuse of public resources, further fracturing the already fragile trust in Dolton's leadership. Henyard, for her part, has dismissed the allegations as baseless, framing them as vindictive actions of disgruntled former associates seeking to undermine her administration. Despite Henyard's denials, Carlisle's detailed accusations, coupled with growing public dissatisfaction and an ongoing FBI investigation, suggest that the issues surrounding her leadership are far more significant than isolated incidents. The fallout from these revelations has been swift and severe. Many are now calling for greater oversight and an end to what they perceive as a reign of unchecked power and privilege. For the residents of Dolton, many of whom live on modest incomes and are struggling to make ends meet, Carlisle's accusations underscore the stark contrast between their daily hardships and the perceived excesses of their leadership. The disclosure of Henyard's alleged misconduct has left many residents feeling betrayed, as they begin to see how their hard-earned taxpayer dollars may have been used to fund a lavish lifestyle for someone entrusted with serving their best interests. Carlisle's decision to come forward has not only shown a harsh spotlight on Henyard's administration, but has also raised critical questions about the systems that allowed such behavior to persist unchecked for so long. The revelations have left the community reeling, with many wondering just how much more remains hidden beneath the surface of Henyard's leadership. As the FBI investigation continues, the once untouchable figure of Henyard now faces intense scrutiny, and Dolton finds itself at a crossroads. The allegations have shaken the community to its core, prompting a growing call for greater accountability and transparency in local governance. Whether or not Henyard can weather the storm and restore her reputation remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the damage to her public image has been done. In the wake of Carlisle's whistleblowing, the people of Dolton are left to grapple with the disturbing reality of how their leadership may have prioritized personal gain over public service. Whether these revelations will ultimately lead to real change or merely reinforce the cycles of corruption and dysfunction that have plagued the town for years is still uncertain. But the consequences of this drama are bound to reverberate for a long time.
To be on the street fighting crime, and instead we have several officers that are riding around protecting.
Carmen Carlisle, once a trusted ally of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, has emerged as a whistleblower, exposing serious allegations of unethical behavior and the misuse of taxpayer funds. Carlisle, alongside her former assistant, claims that Henyard has manipulated the township's resources to support her extravagant lifestyle, making questionable decisions that prioritize her personal gain over the needs of the community. According to Carlisle, Henyard used public money to fund lavish purchases, including a shocking $40,000 Amazon shopping spree, luxury hotel stays, expensive dinners, and exorbitant travel costs, all charged to the township's credit cards. These revelations have sent shockwaves through Dolton, a town already struggling with financial instability. The township's finances have plummeted from a $5.61 million surplus to a $3.65 million deficit in just 2 years. An inquiry led by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot only added further weight to the allegations, uncovering troubling details about Henyard's leadership. Critics argue that Henyard's actions reflect a broader culture of financial mismanagement and self-interest, with some residents pointing out the stark contrast between her lavish lifestyle and the struggles of the community as the scandal deepens. Henyard has dug in her heels, fiercely defending herself against the accusations. She accuses her critics, including the media and township trustees, of spreading false information in an attempt to destroy her political career. Henyard even goes as far as to give her detractors nicknames, portray herself as a victim of a smear campaign. Despite her denials, the mounting evidence, from extravagant spending to questions about transparency and accountability, has placed her under intense scrutiny. Henyard's ongoing defiance has only escalated the drama. The Illinois State Comptroller froze state funding for Dolton due to past audit issues, and the FBI has launched an investigation into her administration for potential misconduct. Subpoenas are piling up, and the pressure on Henyard continues to grow as federal authorities dig deeper into her finances. The tension reached a boiling point during a chaotic town meeting where Henyard, armed with a golden microphone, lashed out at her critics. She refused to back down even as the room descended into what appeared to be a reality TV-style altercation. In this heated atmosphere, Henyard continues to hold on to power, seemingly unwilling to go quietly. Her supporters, though dwindling in number, argue that Henyard is fighting for her political survival. However, her opponents contend that she is simply clinging to power at all costs. To further fuel the fire, Henyard made a controversial decision by reappointing Deputy Police Chief Lacey, who had been indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges, despite the trustees placing him on administrative leave. This decision sparked further division and controversy, leading to yet another court battle. Henyard's increasingly combative stance has alienated both the public and many of her former allies at this point. Dolton residents are fed up with the scandals, infighting, and lack of transparency. The town has become a political circus, with public meetings devolving into shouting matches and protests calling for Henyard's resignation. Many residents now believe that Henyard has become the worst mayor in America and see no end to the turmoil under her leadership. One trustee summed up the frustration, saying, "I wish the FBI was around the corner so they can raid this place, because they all need to go to jail with the FBI investigation ongoing. The drama surrounding Henyard seems far from over, and her reign as mayor appears to be unraveling. The township's future is uncertain, and the residents are desperate for change." With no clear end in sight to the scandal and corruption that had defined Henyard's time in office, the increasingly hostile political environment has left the community divided. Henyard fights tooth and nail to preserve her position, while the rest of the town waits for justice to be served as the situation continues to escalate. It's clear that Dolton is at a crossroads, and Henyard's fate now hangs in the balance. The once powerful mayor's grip on power seems to be slipping, and her once unstoppable political career may be nearing its end. The tensions in Dolton, Illinois, have reached a boiling point as trustees have tried to implement measures to rein in Henyard's controversial spending habits, only for her to veto them repeatedly. This has further alienated her from those who once supported her. In an effort to uncover the full extent of the financial mismanagement, the town hired former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to investigate Henyard's administration. However, Henyard vehemently opposed the investigation, declaring it unconstitutional and blocking Lightfoot's efforts. Although Lightfoot's findings have only raised more questions about Henyard's leadership, the report revealed that the village's finances were in turmoil, with funds being misused for questionable expenses, including lavish trips and extravagant purchases. All charged of taxpayer money, Henyard's behavior has sparked public outrage, especially when Lightfoot publicly stated, "Hey guys, this is Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the people's mayor." As shocked residents of Dolton were forced to confront the reality of their leader's actions, the fallout grew deeper. Meanwhile, Henyard's own charitable foundation, the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation, which claims to support cancer patients, has also come under scrutiny. Allegedly, the foundation was used as a funnel for taxpayer money, with the township approving a $10,000 donation just a month after its charter. Further troubling details emerged about Henyard's questionable spending. She organized a 10-day walk and bike ride across the state, supposedly to support a breast cancer bill that was never even filed. Even more troubling, the entire trip, including hotels, meals, supplies, and photographers, was paid for by the taxpayers of Dolton, while critical police officers were tied up protecting the mayor instead of being on the streets fighting crime. This situation has only added fuel to the fire as Henyard's actions come under increasing scrutiny. The FBI investigation intensifies and subpoenas pile up. Henyard finds herself in a battle to hold on to power, but the harder she fights, the more her allies turn into enemies. Scandals continue to surface, and her reputation is rapidly crumbling. Many in the community are now calling for her resignation, a once heroic figure. Henyard is now seen as a villain. Her fall from grace has been nothing short of dramatic. Dolton residents, fed up with the constant infighting, lack of transparency, and financial instability, are demanding answers and accountability. At a town hall meeting, one frustrated trustee summed it up by saying, "I wish the FBI was around the corner so they can raid this place because they all need to go to jail." The people of Dolton want change, and they want it now. With the FBI investigation gaining momentum, the question remains, will Henyard step down voluntarily, or will she be forced out by mounting pressure? Or could she somehow manage to wiggle her way out of this mess? Clinging to power despite overwhelming evidence against her, only time will tell. But what's clear is that this political drama is far from over. One frustrated supporter expressed their doubts, saying she won't see the inside of the jail cell. The entire state is corrupt, or they would have done something by now. This harsh statement reflects growing frustration among the public, with many questioning whether anyone will truly hold Henyard accountable for her actions, or whether the corruption in the system runs too deep for any real consequences to be enforced. Another resident compared Henyard to a reckless spouse raiding her husband's bank account without regard for the family's well-being. This vivid comparison suggests that Henyard has been careless with public funds while disregarding the needs of the community. The backlash against Henyard is growing, with the public turning against her and demanding accountability for the financial mismanagement and unethical behavior that has plagued her administration. The stakes are high, and as the town of Dolton continues to grapple with the fallout, Henyard's political future seems increasingly uncertain. The once confident mayor, who proudly referred to herself as Super Mayor, is now scrambling to maintain her power. But the cracks in her leadership are becoming too large to ignore. The public is fed up with the scandals, the lack of transparency, and the financial instability. They are calling for change, and the question remains, is this the end of the road for Tiffany Henyard, the so-called super mayor? Or is there more to this story than meets the eye? The saga of Tiffany Henyard is far from over. As the residents of Dolton watch closely, it's clear that the political drama is reaching a fever pitch, and it shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon.